Mayor Tiffany Henyard's tumultuous tenure. From hope to havoc in Dalton, Illinois. Tiffany Henyard's tenure as mayor of Dalton, Illinois, began with a sense of historic promise. Her election as the town's first female mayor signaled a new chapter for the predominantly black community of 20,000, a moment of progress, change, and hope for effective leadership. However, that optimism has since given way to mounting controversy and political chaos that now overshadows nearly every aspect of the town's government. What was once hailed as a victory for representation and reform has spiraled into a scandal-ridden administration marred by allegations of corruption, financial mismanagement, and a troubling consolidation of power. Today, Henyard's leadership is under intense scrutiny as Dalton finds itself at the center of a growing storm of dysfunction and public outrage. One of the most emblematic missteps of Henyard's administration came in September when she appointed Ronald Burge as the town's police chief. The decision quickly drew criticism, not only because the appointment bypassed the required approval of the Dalton Village Board of Trustees, but because Burge lacked the legal qualifications required to serve as a law enforcement officer in Illinois, according to the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, ILTSB. Burge was deemed inactive for failing to complete state-mandated training and certification. Without these credentials, he could not legally perform the basic duties of a police officer, let alone lead an entire department. Despite these revelations, Henyard remained defiant, refusing to rescind the appointment, further fueling a growing perception that her administration was unaccountable and governed more by personal loyalty than by law or competency. Appointment of an unqualified police chief sent shockwaves through a community already grappling with public safety concerns. Residents have voiced frustration over delayed emergency response times and rising crime. The Burge controversy became a symbol of broader issues within the local government, issues that include mismanagement, a lack of transparency, and disregard for proper procedure. Critics argue that Henyard's leadership style prioritizes control over collaboration and personal gain over public service. Her repeated clashes with governance norms have not only destabilized the village's institutions, but have left residents questioning whether their concerns are being heard at all. In addition to the Burge scandal, Henyard has been accused of misusing public funds for personal benefit. Investigations have revealed excessive spending on travel and luxury accommodations, including more than $171,000 on travel expenses and over $48,000 in Amazon purchases charged to village credit cards. Items unrelated to village operations, ranging from electronics to luxury goods, were among the expenditures the village, once operating with a multi-million-dollar surplus, is now facing a significant budget deficit. Reports indicate that Dalton went from a $4.95 million surplus in 2022 to a $5.68 million deficit by mid-2024. Compounding this financial decline is Henyard's failure to assign personnel to properly manage and report the use of over $3 million in American Rescue Plan funds, violating federal guidelines and inviting further scrutiny. If Henyard's fiscal decisions have drawn criticism, her public persona has done little to ease tensions. Her leadership style has frequently been described as combative, theatrical, and increasingly disconnected from the real issues facing Dalton residents. She has reportedly used village police officers as her personal security detail and has appeared in public dressed in outfits resembling gangster movie characters, behavior that many residents see as a mockery of her office. These public spectacles may grab headlines, but they've also deepened the community's frustration. Many residents feel their town has become a political circus, overshadowing serious concerns like deteriorating infrastructure, poverty, and economic stagnation. Henyard's fiery public addresses often deflect criticism as politically motivated, yet this strategy has done little to restore public trust. Henyard's frequent disregard for board protocols has alienated many within the village government. Her decision to bypass the Dalton Village Board in appointing Burge is just one example of her unilateral approach to governance. The board has since attempted to rein in her authority, even approving a resolution calling for a federal investigation into her administration. Village trustees have accused Henyard of corruption and mismanagement, and they've expressed concern that the mayor's actions have rendered effective governance nearly impossible. The board's inability to check Henyard's decisions has left many in the community wondering whether any real accountability remains as the situation escalates. Outside agencies have taken notice. The FBI has reportedly issued subpoenas for personnel and business records at Dalton Village Hall, part of what is believed to be a broader investigation into corruption and potential misuse of public funds. These developments signal that Henyard's administration may soon face not only political fallout, but serious legal consequences. Henyard has continued to dismiss the investigations as partisan attacks, but a growing body of evidence and public outcry suggests that these concerns are not simply political maneuvering. They are rooted in a deep frustration with a government that appears increasingly dysfunctional and out of touch with the people it serves for Dalton residents. The consequences of Henyard's leadership are felt every day. Delayed emergency services, failing infrastructure, and a lack of meaningful economic development have eroded public confidence. The once hopeful community that elected Henyard to usher in a new era now finds itself engulfed in uncertainty, scandal, and division. Even Henyard supporters, who argue she is a target of a coordinated smear campaign, are struggling to counter the growing narrative that her leadership has brought more harm than good. The political infighting and controversy have all but stalled progress in the village, leaving residents desperate for change. The future of Dalton hangs in the balance. With federal investigations underway, the potential for criminal charges looms. More immediately, the village faces a critical question. Can Henyard continue to lead effectively amid such chaos, or is new leadership required to rebuild the systems that so clearly failed? What's certain is that trust in local government is at an all-time low. Residents are demanding transparency, accountability, and a return to basic good governance. Whether that can be achieved under Henyard's administration, or whether it will require new voices and fresh leadership, remains to be seen. What began as a story of trailblazing political achievement has devolved into a cautionary tale of power, mismanagement, and broken promises. Tiffany Henyard's time in office has not only shaken the foundations of Dalton's local government, but has also raised pressing questions about the standards of leadership and the mechanisms in place to hold public officials accountable. Mounting tensions and legal challenges in Dalton. Henyard's leadership under fire. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's controversial decision to appoint Ronald Burge as police chief, despite his lack of legal qualifications, has only deepened the growing crisis in Dalton, Illinois. Even in the face of scrutiny from legal authorities and public officials, Henyard stood by her choice, dismissing the backlash as a politically motivated campaign aimed at undermining her leadership. But what many saw was not a principled stand. It was a move to protect a loyal ally and consolidate political power to critics. Henyard's insistence on keeping Burge in position was less about ensuring effective leadership and more about using the police department as a political instrument. The result, they argue, was a dangerous precedent. Where allegiance to the mayor trumped qualifications and accountability, the controversy escalated when it was revealed that Henyard had bypassed the Dalton Village Board of Trustees in making the appointment, violating established governance protocols. In response, a judge issued a temporary restraining order to block Burge from assuming the role until the board gave formal approval. Rather than reconsider her decision, Henyard remained defiant, further alienating both residents and officials already frustrated by her disregard for procedural norms throughout the ordeal. Henyard continued to cast herself as a victim of an orchestrated attack. But as the accusations mounted and public frustration grew, this narrative wore thin. The implications of her actions reached beyond politics. They directly undermined public trust in Dalton's local government. At a time when the village was already struggling with financial instability, underperforming schools, and deteriorating public services, Henyard's leadership added further strain to an already fragile system. The situation worsened as external agencies, including the Illinois Attorney General's office and the FBI, reportedly began monitoring Henyard's administration. Allegations of financial mismanagement, misuse of taxpayer funds, and questionable political appointments fueled an expanding investigation, further damaging her credibility and eroding the public's faith in her leadership. Henyard now finds herself at a pivotal crossroads. With the town's future hanging in the balance, residents are asking whether she can guide Dalton back to stability, or whether her continued leadership will only bring more dysfunction. What once began as a historic opportunity for progress has devolved into a divisive administration marked by scandal, defiance, and missteps. The Burge appointment, while emblematic of Henyard's broader leadership style, is only one chapter in a much larger narrative about the governance crisis in Dalton. Residents who had once hoped for transformation now find themselves caught in a web of political turmoil, unsure if trust and order can ever be restored. The investigations continue, and with them, the question of whether the town can recover from the damage done under Henyard's watch. Determined to push forward, Henyard's administration has sparked an increasingly contentious atmosphere. Recent village board meetings have been fraught with tension and conflict, reflecting the growing divide within the community. In a temporary court decision, Burge was allowed to serve as interim police chief for 30 days while a permanent replacement was sought. Yet even this brief tenure was met with outcry, as Burge's lack of proper training and certification under Illinois law remained a central concern. Critics argued that Henyard's motivations were clear. Burge was not appointed to serve the public, but to protect her political interests. This move, they claimed, reflected a broader pattern in her administration, rewarding loyalty over merit, and governing through spectacle rather than substance. As this controversy continued to unfold, additional allegations surfaced against Henyard. These included reports of financial impropriety, excessive spending on travel and luxury accommodations, and misuse of village personnel and resources for personal use. Combined with the Burge scandal, these issues created a perfect storm that left the community disillusioned and divided. Dalton, a town already facing rising crime, aging infrastructure, and economic challenges, now also faces a leadership crisis. Even some of Henyard's former allies began questioning her decision-making. As the political fallout intensified and concerns about her governance grew louder rather than acknowledging the widespread discontent, Henyard doubled down, labeling critics as enemies and shifting blame away from her administration. This refusal to take responsibility only deepened the rift in Dalton's political landscape and further destabilized an already fragile local government. The Burge incident was not an isolated misstep. It was a reflection of deeper issues that had plagued Henyard's time in office. And for many in Dalton, it was the last straw. With investigations looming, public trust faltering, and no clear path forward, the town stands at crossroads. Whether it can recover from the damage inflicted during Henyard's administration remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. The residents of Dalton are demanding accountability, transparency, and change. Dalton in crisis. Henyard's leadership under fire amid mounting scandals. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration has come under intense scrutiny, with her leadership style and priorities raising significant concerns among residents and officials alike. From bypassing established governance protocols to make politically motivated appointments to facing allegations of misusing public funds for personal gain, Henyard has been at the center of a growing political storm. Federal investigations into her financial dealings and the misuse of public resources have only added to the pressure. As Dalton's residents struggle with rising crime, crumbling infrastructure, and economic instability, many feel their town is being dragged deeper into dysfunction by a mayor whose leadership has become synonymous with controversy. At the heart of the most recent uproar is Henyard's decision to appoint Ronald Burge as the town's police chief, despite his lack of the legal qualifications required under Illinois law. This appointment, made without the approval of the Dalton Village Board of Trustees, directly violated governance protocols and triggered a legal challenge that resulted in a temporary restraining order against Burge's installment. Still, Henyard refused to back down, portraying the criticism as politically motivated attacks aimed at undermining her authority. For many, Henyard's determination to stand by Burge became a symbol of a broader leadership approach, one where loyalty is prioritized over competence. A growing sentiment in Dalton suggests that Henyard fills positions not based on merit, but on allegiance to her, with one resident harshly comparing her staffing tactics to those of a mob boss. While extreme, this comparison reflects the deep mistrust and frustration many feel toward her administration. Henyard's history of controversial appointments extends beyond Burge. She has placed political allies and individuals with questionable backgrounds in key roles, including within the police department. These decisions have raised alarms about her judgment and the overall direction of her administration, especially as the town faces pressing challenges that demand experienced and capable leadership. The Burge controversy, in particular, has amplified public outrage. Prior to his appointment in Dalton, Burge served as police chief in other municipalities, such as Dixmoor and Harvey, where his tenures were marred by lawsuits and allegations of misconduct. These included claims of political retaliation and employment disputes. Burge has reportedly been named in at least 4 lawsuits in recent years, making his election even more baffling to many in the community. That Henyard would place him in one of the town's most critical leadership roles, despite such a record, has only deepened public skepticism about her motives and qualifications to lead. As the scandal continues to unfold and investigations expand, Dalton residents are left wondering whether their town can recover from the damage. Many question whether Henyard will acknowledge the consequences of her decisions and take steps to restore public trust, or if her defiance will only further divide an already fractured community. With the town's political system teetering on the edge and the stakes higher than ever, the future of Dalton remains uncertain. Henyard's defenders may argue that her boldness represents necessary disruption, but the ongoing pattern of questionable leadership, lack of transparency, and political favoritism suggests otherwise. For now, Dalton stands at a crossroads, with his fate closely tied to whether its mayor can rise to meet the moment, or if her legacy will be one of turmoil, mistrust, and missed opportunities. Dalton in crisis. Henyard's controversial leadership and the fallout of the Burge appointment. The town of Dalton, Illinois, remains engulfed in political turmoil as Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration faces growing criticism and scrutiny. At the center of the storm is Henyard's controversial appointment of Ronald Burge as police chief, despite clear evidence that he is unqualified to hold a position under Illinois law. The Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, ILTSB, had deemed Burge inactive, effectively barring him from legally serving as a sworn officer. Yet, Henyard has remained resolute, refusing to remove him from his post despite mounting pressure from town officials, and residents' critics argue that Henyard's insistence on retaining Burge is part of a broader strategy to consolidate political power. By surrounding herself with loyalists who owe their positions to her, Henyard ensures unwavering support and minimizes dissent within her administration. Many believe that competency has taken a back seat to loyalty, with Henyard focused more on political control than on effectively governing a community in crisis. This perception has only intensified as Henyard's leadership style continues to draw concern. From ignoring governance protocols to appoint individuals with controversial pasts, her approach has left many in Dalton disillusioned. The situation with Burge reached a new level of contention when the ILTSB issued a formal letter stating that he did not meet the legal requirements to serve as chief. The Dalton Village Board of Trustees, already at odds with Henyard over her unilateral appointment of Burge, is now preparing to take the matter back to court. They plan to use the board's letter as evidence in a legal push to bar Burge from serving in any capacity. The Burge controversy has become a symbol of the deeper dysfunction plaguing Dalton's government. The town is grappling with rising crime, deteriorating infrastructure, financial mismanagement, and a business environment on the brink of collapse. Many residents believe Henyard's actions have only made matters worse. As she continues to promote individuals based on loyalty rather than experience or qualifications, Burge's past has done little to inspire confidence. His prior roles as police chief in neighboring towns like Dixmoor and Harvey were fraught with controversy, including lawsuits alleging political retaliation and misconduct. These legal entanglements raise serious questions about why Henyard would select him to lead Dalton's struggling police department. Her unwavering support for Burge, in the face of strong opposition and legal warnings, has left many questioning her judgment and priorities. Some in the community have gone so far as to compare Henyard's leadership to that of a dictator. Critics point to massive billboards across town bearing her image as a sign of self-promotion, suggesting that Henyard is more concerned with maintaining her public profile than addressing the town's urgent needs. Her public appearances, often marked by confrontational speeches and attention-grabbing outfits, have reinforced the belief that she thrives on drama and controversy, keeping the spotlight on herself even if it draws negative attention. This pattern of behavior has deepened public frustration and alienated a growing number of residents. Many feel powerless in the face of what they view as an increasingly dysfunctional and self-serving administration. Henyard's refusal to take responsibility for the chaos surrounding her office has only widened the divide between local leadership and the community. With a mayoral election on the horizon, Dalton stands at a critical crossroads. Trustee Jason House, a challenger to Henyard, has launched a campaign focused on accountability, reform, and transparency. His message is resonating with many residents desperate for change and stability. House has pledged to clean up what he calls the mess left by Henyard's administration, promising to restore integrity and professionalism to local government. Still, Henyard appears undeterred. She has announced her bid for re-election and, in a controversial move, compared herself to former U.S. President Donald Trump, claiming she would win in a landslide despite the scandals surrounding her. Whether Henyard can hold on to her position or will face consequences for her controversial decisions remains to be seen as the legal battles continue and the future of Burge's appointment hangs in the balance. Dalton's leadership crisis shows no signs of resolution. The stakes have never been higher, with residents left to grapple with the consequences of a leadership style defined by loyalty over competence and drama over stability. The outcome of the upcoming election could determine whether Dalton finds a new path forward or continues down a road marked by division, dysfunction, and disillusionment.